Hello everyone, karibu sana to this session. This will be a very intense topic. Let me start by introducing myself. I've realized I actually, oops, we wait for that. But my name is Lucy. I work for Janta. I am an entrepreneur and I'm a business coach, but what I do for a living is that I'm an entrepreneur. I run Janta, which is an HR consultancy, management support. We help people with strategy, etc. So that's what is my bread and butter. And we have been running Janta for 13 years. So I know when we're talking about failure and business and all those things, I'm talking from a point of knowledge, not because I know better than everyone else, but I want to speak from experience because if you can avoid the pitfalls that most of us did, and when I say most of us, I mean personally, my own clients, people who are within my circles have made. If you're able to avoid those pitfalls, then you can run a business in a better way. So today it will be a very touchy topic. We're talking about failure. When you started your business and you had this brilliant idea, you're so excited about the money you could make, you're excited about changing the world, depending on what your vision is, or you wanted to change a space, you were introducing new tech into in the industry, or you just had this big idea of how you wanted things to happen, and where you are at, it's not looking like what you dreamt of. This is the session for you. Please stay until the very end. And if you have any questions, please use the comment section. We're live on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram. Please use the comment section so that we're able to answer questions as we go. Also, we don't feel so lonely if you're there talking to us. So please send a thumbs up, share this link if you have anyone who you know is running a business and is struggling. Do not consume information on your own. That's not how the universe works. You share information, we grow together, and that's how you thrive. Fantastic. So what is failure, and how do you know you're failing, or how do you know your business is on the verge of collapse? I'll give a personal story. So again, as I said, I've been running Janta for 13 years, moving on to 14. Actually, it's now 14 years. And I will talk about post-COVID. As you know, heavily, prior to 2020, our business was heavily centered on recruitment, HR management, HR services, HR support, training, all those things. 2020 comes, as you all know, all businesses are collapsing. Everyone is trying to downsize, everyone is cutting salaries. People are not looking to enhance their staffing. They're looking to bring it down, collapse it. We were left with only one client. This client was in the food industry. They were a bakery, and they were allowed to continue business because they were an essential service. So they were the only people who were still open. So they were the ones paying our salaries because we had a retainer agreement with them. They were the ones paying our salaries for our staff. They were essentially the ones keeping us alive. And it got to a point where we were not able to keep up with our facilities. Our own facilities were not able to keep up with our rent. We had a huge office. We were not able to keep up with anything but salaries. And our finance director sat me down, I think it was August 2020, and had a very hard talk with me. She told me, you know what, you're running on fumes. It's time to shut down. And I cannot even begin to describe the feeling. And I know many of you must have felt that. I mean, oh my God, there's personal shame that you feel, and yet sometimes it's not even the circumstance. And you always blame yourself as an entrepreneur. You're like, okay, well, why wasn't I ready for an epidemic or a pandemic? Or even now, why haven't I figured my way around? I'm seeing other businesses are still surviving. What is it that I'm not doing right? And I can't begin to describe the shame, the pain, the depression that I went through during that time. you're starting to think, okay, so am I going to close this business, start another one? This is not working. And it was a lot. And the things that were coming, so we had already halved salaries like everybody else. But we're also losing staff. Our staff were exiting because no one could live on the half salary for too long. We were just behind on rent, behind on all our bills, behind on almost everything. So we were heavily now in debt, and we didn't just have the income to sustain it. And we made the decision to close office. I think that's what I said. Okay, fine, we wouldn't close the business, but let's close office. So we had a talk with our landlord. We said, okay, listen, we owe you this amount of money. We cannot make that money right now. What we're going to do is we're going to let you have everything in our office. We just remove our machines. You can have the furniture. You value the furniture, figure out how much it is worth, deduct that from our bill, then whatever is left we will pay you off slowly. To which he was really gracious, and wherever he is, oh my God, I pray that he's blessed. If he's still alive, he's quite an old man, but wherever he is, may he be blessed, because that was a huge burden, because I think we owed him over 1 million shillings. So, and that one was one of the biggest things I had in at that time, that I was like, okay, we really need to get that bill down. I think it was slightly more than that. So, I mean, but if you're going through a similar experience, some of the indicators that you're on the verge, and it's not just normal business struggle, but you're on the verge of collapse, is you're not able to meet your bills. And there's no payment that's coming that's going to clear. Or it's not even, you're not sure when the payments are coming in to clear the bills that you have. Or you have employees exiting your business en masse. And you're not able to now fulfill any new business because you don't have the staffing to do it. Number 3, if you're completely in debt, like your debts compared to your income, there's no way you're about to even balance it out. And it's okay to run on debt when you're in business, but it has to balance. You have to manage you have to manage your liquidity, and you must manage your leverage. So it's important that those things are balanced. So if you're in this point, this is the conversation we need to be having right now. You've had your dream, it's not working yet. Is it the end of the road? Thankfully not. So, but it depends on case by case, but thankfully not, because we are still here, we're still growing, we have evolved, we have changed, we've become a completely new different company running on a completely new different system. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm here to tell you as a personal experience and also as a coach, in terms of seeing what will help you grow again, whether in the same frame of business, whether it's the same business model, or if it's in a new different business model, or close the business and start something new. We will look at what we're going to go into. So if you have any questions, please again use the comment section, ask your questions so that we go and answer them as we are moving. All right. So again, number 1, how do we recognize the signs of failure, or the signs that it is time to pivot, or to let go, or to turn things around? The red flags, as I said: 1, you're not able to meet your bills. Number 2, you don't have enough. The team has left you en masse. Number 3, you're heavily in debt, and you're sinking. Number 4, you just don't have any revenue coming in. You might be okay everywhere else, but there's no sales coming in. You're just not making any money. And number 5, if you're completely you have money coming in, but everything is being spent, you are not profitable at all, and you've not been profitable for a long time. And we're not talking about the kind of profit where you can take 10 years because you had someone having invested patient capital, and they're allowing you to just grow faster your numbers. You're bootstrapping and you're not making any profit. So the one thing you will need to deal with as an entrepreneur is denial. If you're in denial that you're in that much trouble, you're likely to sink into deeper debt, or you're likely to sink into more problems. So if you're in denial, you need to figure that out very, very quickly. If you're in denial about your numbers, you figure it out very quickly. I know most of us like to bury our heads in the sand. We don't want to look at the numbers. Most of the people I work with, I'm the one who has to demand. Send me your P&L, send me your cash flow statement, send me your balance sheet, send me your trial balance. I want to see your reconciliations, because no one wants to take the reality of, okay, I need to see the picture of what is actually happening in the organization. And until we have that number, and until we have the reality on the table, we're not able to move forward. So if you're in that position right now, and you have an accountant, ask for those documents immediately. Now start looking at them, so that we now see, where are we? Is this recoverable or not? So the first thing we want to think about, where are we? What is our financial position? All right, so now we are where we're at the point we are figuring out, okay, maybe we're in trouble. But why do good ideas fail? Sometimes you just didn't do enough research. You had a brilliant idea, but it was your own brilliant idea. You didn't do any research. You didn't check if it fits in the market. You didn't have a focus group. You didn't check if there are any competitors, what are they doing differently. So it was just not a good fit for the market. And it's good to understand that, because if you know that now, you're able to change how you do things in the future. Number two, it was just, you misread the market. You absolutely misread the market. I know a lot of us have started businesses because you looked for something and you didn't find it. You tried to find something and you just were not able to get it. Like, for example, you look for plus size clothing and you're just not able to find. You're like, okay, if I'm not able to find, that means it's a good business idea. Probably not. It might be a good idea because at that moment you're looking at it, maybe you're the only one who's looking for that thing, number one. Or two, you haven't looked hard enough. Maybe they're suppliers, you just didn't look hard enough. So it's important to ensure that you still do your research when you're doing your business. But if you're there, now you're already in it, you have stock that is not moving, we need to understand that that is where your problem was. Or that you had poor timing. You maybe had the right idea, it was, yes, there's a gap in the market, but it was the wrong timing. You've had a lot of people saying there are seasons. For example, if you launch an ice cream brand in June, July in East Africa, you're going to fail, because that's a cold season. No one is buying cold things. People want hot things. The converse is true. So you might sink your funds in a product that is just wrongly timed. So you have to be very careful about timing. Or you underestimated the competition, or you overestimated the consumer needs. So for example, you've brought in a market, maybe you're in the telco service and you've brought in a service that competes with a company like Safaricom, and you underestimated their capability of crushing competition. I mean, we've seen that in the beer industry, where but we will not name names, but where the monopoly will go and buy out all the beer from the distributors, from the competitors' lineup of SKUs. They buy out all of them so that only their product is in the market. So if you underestimate your competitor, you're likely to fall into trouble. And then another reason, again, you overestimated the market size, or you overestimated the consumer's needs. Sometimes something might be important for you when you're thinking about it, but other people don't find it very important. For example, you might be looking for a smartwatch that does maybe calorie tracking or something like that, but it's not something that's important to the people who you're trying to sell to. Maybe because you have placed it in the wrong market segment. So it's important that you're understanding where you failed, so that we know what do we now do. If you don't understand where you failed, you don't know how to change, you don't know how to pivot. So okay, now that you know where you failed, how badly has it affected you? What is the emotional impact of what you have gone through? I don't know, anyone who knows me knows I will always advocate for therapy. If you're in business, ensure you always have a therapist, because business is tough. It's hard to do without any kind of emotional support. So if I acknowledge that this is how I am right now, I'm testy, I snap at people, I'm always angry, or I'm always depressed, I'm not able to get out of the bed. You need to deal with that before trying to change things, before trying to turn around things, because you will not have the energy it will take, because it's almost like you're starting a new business afresh. So you need to deal with the emotional angle of where I am at emotionally, where I am at in terms of even my own personal life. How is my family affected by this? Am I so badly doing? I'm doing so badly that I am not even able to pay rent or school fees for my children or things like that. To understand that impact, so that you know, okay, what can I do in the meantime to solve that issue, while I get the headspace that I need to draw out from when I'm trying to turn around the business. If I'm not able to turn things around emotionally, I'm not going to be able to turn things around financially and physically for the business that I have. All right, so up to that point, if we don't have any questions, I'll read one of the questions that we have received prior to that. Okay, so I finally opened a boutique. It was my childhood dream. I sourced beautiful clothes, hired a friend to help manage the place, and designed the space to look like a Pinterest board. But every month, sales barely covered expenses. My confidence began to unravel with every unopened customer door. How do you know when to pivot and when to persevere? There's one thing about business. You should not have to persevere. If your sales are not covering expenses, you're not in business. My friend calls it a very expensive hobby. So if you're in business and your sales are not covering expenses, you need to pivot immediately. You don't wait. There's no perseverance. This is not a relationship. It's not a spouse that you have to persevere. It's not a parent. It's a relationship that could end and you move on and a life will move on. So if your business is not covering expenses, this is a point you have to pivot. And what we're going to discuss through is what you need to do immediately. All right, so let me read another question. I left my 9 to 5 to start a home catering business. My food was delicious. Everyone said so. I posted on Instagram, cooked from morning till evening, and even delivered personally. But despite the hustle, referrals didn't grow. I had too few orders to break even and too much pride to admit I was struggling. How do you rebuild when your sure thing becomes your biggest strain? Interestingly enough, during COVID, I started a food business as well. That is interesting. And yes, I understand the part where you're home, you decide, okay, we're not going to work, I need to do something with my time. I'm the kind of people I'm not okay with being idle. So I started a food business selling diet food, and it worked for 1 or 2 years because one, I had the time, I had the knowledge of how to do social media. The algorithm worked then, I think. In my opinion, the algorithm was very easy. It was very straightforward. I don't know what happened to Meta when they decided to change. And it was easy. You get an order, it was priced correctly, you make your margin, you send for the product. Now, suddenly the algorithm has changed. Whatever you're paying for ad is not bringing the number of customers you want. And I figured out, what, I think this is not working, because when you're buying materials, especially in the food industry, especially if you're a cottage business, you have to buy in bulk for the pricing to make sense. But when you now have small orders, you have to buy it in smaller quantities, and then it throws off the pricing. So you can't increase your price and you can't manage the margin, because now the margins become very, very small, and you find yourself actually going back to your pocket. So I had a long conversation with myself and decided to close that, because I was like, what, this is not making any sense. So I think if you're at the point where this is your only thing, thankfully for me, I still had my main business, and I decided this is what I'm doing, and for now this is what I am focusing on. If you have nothing to fall back on, I think what you need to do is relook at your marketing strategy and your sales strategy and figure out, is it workable? If not, perhaps you need to close. So this is a conversation you might need to have with a professional. All right. So what are the lessons you're learning? I don't know what lessons you have learned in this season of failure, and I don't want to make you feel like you're failing as a person, or you're a failure as a person. Is that the business or the venture that you're in is failing, and let me assure you that it has no impact on who you are as an individual. It has no impact, and I need to emphasize this. It has no impact on who you are as an individual. So please take this home, that it's only your business that has failed. It is not you who is a failure. You can be a success. And let me tell you, majority, if not all the people who have made it in life, even the ones we see on Forbes billionaires list, 99% of those people have failed, and failed tremendously. I've even had a story about Elon Musk, the way he went and bought the first time he sold his first company, he went and bought a car for, I think $1 million, or is it something crazy? It wasn't $1 million, it was something else, something crazy. And soon after, the whole thing just fell apart around him. So, and even where he is now, yes, he's the richest man, but there's some sort of failures. I see he's living in Washington and all that. There's always failure in every success story. So please take this to heart, that this is not who you are and this is not your identity. It's just that the venture that you're in, that is collapsing around you. So please figure that out for yourself and handle it emotionally. But now let's see, what are the lessons that we're learning? Do we need to do a sales strategy that works? Do we not need to continuously review our sales strategy? Is our marketing strategy the correct one? Did we consult anyone? Did we do any kind of research? What are you learning? Take notes and write down. If you have a notebook, please write down the lessons that you've learned. For me personally, I learned that you can't wing it. You can't wing it in business. It won't work. It will work for a few months, but you cannot wing it. You have to put things on paper. You have to understand where your business is going. You have to understand what problem you're solving. You have to understand who you are speaking to, your audience. You have to understand who your audience is in terms of how they consume media, how do they consume information, what are their preferences, how do they make buying decisions, how do they, at what point do they actually need your help. So they might, let me tell you, a lesson I quickly learned last year is, people need my help, but they don't know it and they don't think they need it. So just because I see their problem doesn't mean that they know that they have a problem. So it might be just that it's a matter of how they perceive things. So you have to learn lessons along the way. You just keep trying and keep changing and keep pivoting until you figure out what is right for your business. Now we have figured out what our problem is. What do we do? Okay, what do we do? How do we first objectively assess our business to see where we currently are, and then now what is it that we need to do moving forward? So step number one, if you have a pen and paper, please take it out and write this down. Number one, assess your business for where it is now. If you don't have an accountant, find one. I don't care how broke you are, find one. Even if it is a friend who will come and sit with you and look at your books, find an accountant that you know and that you trust, that who can look at your books, who can look at your numbers and tell you, this is the position of the company right now. Don't be afraid of the numbers. Don't be afraid of how badly you are in debt. It doesn't matter how many millions you owe. It doesn't matter how deeply sunk you are. It doesn't matter. You need to know the figure. So get the correct position of where your business is. Learn how much in debt you are, how much revenue you are currently making, what are the expenses that you're making at the moment. just list your assets, list your liabilities. Make sure you have an income statement for the last at least 6 months to 1 year. You have at least your balance sheet. You have at least your cash flow statement, which cash flow statement is actually at this point more important than your income statement, because your cash flow statement actually tells you where you are, especially if you're in a business that takes a lot of debt. You get a lot of business that you do that you're not paid for immediately. Cash flow statement is more important for you than even your P&L. And then now do your reconciliations. I think we should be taking a call right about now. Right?
To copy this tune, dial 11 for 1 shilling and 50 cents daily.
I'm not sure she's on. Maybe we...
Hello?
Oh, she's there. Hello, how are you? Hi, Joy.
Hi, good, how are you?
I'm very well.
Yes.
Thank you for calling in today.
Asante sana.
Yes, so maybe you have a question?
Come again, I can't hear you clearly.
I'm saying you have a question for us today?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
My question is,
Mm-hmm.
okay, just a minute, I'd noted it down somewhere for you guys.
Uh-huh.
My question is,
Yeah.
what's the first thing you should do after realizing your business idea won't work?
So in fact, that's what we're just discussing right now. So
Okay.
if you realize it's not working, you first must evaluate where you are at, okay? So
Okay.
do you have like books of accounts? Do you have financial statements that tell you your current position for your business?
Mm-hmm.
So if those are the documents you need to make a decision on whether to close or whether to pivot.
Yeah.
Because the businesses that can close and now you figure out how you're going to pay your debtors.
Yeah.
But there are those that are maybe even in so much trouble they have to pivot. They have no choice. They have to continue and figure out where to get the money from, right?
Yeah, true, that's true.
Or there are businesses that, yes, they're in a lot of trouble, but there's still opportunities in the market for them to explore and to turn around the business.
Yeah.
Right? So the
Yeah.
first thing is to get the current position of your company, know the numbers, and then now you start looking at what are the other opportunities that we have to be able to turn around the business.
True.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I think keep watching the live, then perhaps we'll be able to answer the questions that I'm sure will follow from here.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you too.
All right. Have a good one.
Good day too.
Okay. So, as Joy was asking, if you figure out, okay, my business is in trouble, but most of the time we don't usually have the clear figures around us. Once we know our financial position, then now we start figuring out, do we have a way out in terms of, do we still have market? It's the same way you come back and do a strategic plan or a business plan. You start to see, do we have market? And now we are very honest with ourselves with what we already have learned. And that's why the importance of the lessons we had earlier. Do we now have a product? Do we have a service that we can sell? Do we have a market that wants our products or services? Do we have people who have the money to buy? So because you could have the product that they need, but they don't have the money to buy. And case in point, you can be working in an economy that is collapsing. If you're in a collapsing economy, you have to really think hard about whether you're going to push a product. Say, for example, if you're in a country where there's a recession, you don't want to push an item that is not a necessary thing, and especially if your target market is the middle class. If your target market is the wealthy, then that is okay. That's why we see, luxury brands still thriving even when there is a recession, because the rich remain rich and they still spend money. But if your product is from mid-market to lower market and it's still a bit pricier than it is the next, these are the points where people are making decisions to cut down on money, on their spending. So if you're playing in that market segment, it might be a bad idea to still try and push that product. Perhaps you might want to work on the pricing, maybe work on the packaging. Sometimes an item could be broken down into smaller pieces and then sold in smaller packaging. And for example, I think for me, when I was selling food items, because I used to sell ice cream, I think one of the lessons I learned is I should have done it in smaller packages, so that then it becomes slightly more affordable, because you could do a small can maybe for 300-400 shillings. Someone might buy that, as opposed to buying a liter that's going to cost them 2,000 shillings. So it's important that you start rethinking either your packaging or how you're going to split your product. So depending on the market you are, really think about where the industry is, where the market is, how is the economy, people spending. You really have to have that information to make a better decision. Now, while you're going through this, and if you have been the kind of person who works alone and makes business decisions alone, this is the point where you get a supportive network. Find someone. If you're not able to find one person who can help you everything, like a business coach, for example, find someone who's good at accounts, find another person who's good at sales, find another person who's good at marketing. Make them friends of your business. Ask, how do we change this? How do we improve this? Make sure you have the opinion of other people who are able to support you and people who are able to give you ideas on how to turn around things. This is a good time to look into someone who's going to help you to pivot during that period. So now, what we're going to be having a webinar in about to explain. Michelle, when is it going to be? It's going to be on the 15th of June. We're going to have a webinar on 15th of June this year, 2025, where we're going to now give you practical steps on how to turn around your business. So we'll be giving you tools. We'll be giving you forms to fill out for, if all this is not making any sense, we'll have questionnaires ready for you. We'll have homework for you. This event, thankfully, is going to be free for you and for everybody else who you tell. It's going to be free because we're going through tough times as a region. It's just tough times, and if we're not helping each other, there's nothing we're doing. So make sure you sign up for that webinar, and if any of this information is just not making any sense, make sure you don't miss that webinar, because we will take you through step by step. We will send you the tools, we will email you. Oh, sorry, it's going to be on 12th of June. It's going to be 12th of June, 7 p.m. Make sure you don't miss it. It's going to be it's going to be online. So don't miss it. Make sure you put it on your diary. We're going to go through step by step documents that you feel. If you've never kept books before, this one is going to be for you. All right. So now you have figured out, this is my problem, this is how deep I am in debt, this is how deep I am in my problems. You figured out, okay, this is what I need to do. Now you come up with a plan for turnaround. The plan for turnaround, you have to look at two things. If, for example, you're in a business that is selling goods, you have to look at your stock. See what is sellable, what is not. If there's stuff that you have that is not sellable, you might need to quickly dispose. You want to have a plan for liquidating stock immediately, because before everyone else in your industry realizes what's happening, you want to be fast out of that particular stock. So if you're able to liquidate your stock, immediately do that. Whatever is sellable at profit, then now figure out what is the sales strategy for that. What is going to be the marketing strategy for that? If you're selling services, this is the point we start thinking, is your service still relevant to the market? And services are good because it's easier to pivot, because you're able to now start saying what is related to what we are offering that I can sell, that is needed by the market. One of the things we pivoted with Janta at the point where everyone was not doing hiring, anyone who's taking advice on HR, is we offer downsizing services, because downsizing gets a lot of companies in trouble. So we figured, okay, we could offer downsizing services as a service, and we helped companies bring down their numbers. So you always have to think ahead of the game. You're starting to think, okay, what does the market need? And do your research. And one of the things we'll be doing at the webinar is figuring out how do we actually do that research. All right, let me take another question. Great. I created a coaching program for women in leadership, a dream I had had for years. I had a full curriculum, glowing testimonials from friends, and a sleek landing page. Wow. But when I launched, only 2 people signed up. One was my cousin. Oh, we're not laughing at you, we're laughing at the situation. I started questioning whether I was even meant to be a coach. How do you separate your self-worth from your setbacks? The first thing you need to do is realize that being a coach does not necessarily mean you're an entrepreneur yet. A coach is a professional. It's just like being an accountant, or being a lawyer, or being an advocate, or being an auditor. You're a subject matter expert. Being a leadership coach is great because you have value in that. But then what you likely ignored is the business aspect of it. And this happens a lot. And I have a lot of doctor clients, and I have a lot of dentists. I have people who are professional, who have clinics and all that. And I really enjoy the fact that they realize that I'm really great at what I do, but I'm not a business person. But a lot of us feel like, okay, because we have even been running businesses before, we've been working in businesses, and we figure out businesses as we go. But you can't be a subject matter expert. You have, it's like having a nice office, you've done the decor, now you sit back and wait for clients. You don't have a strategy for getting what we call business acquisition strategy. Meaning you have not thought about your sales, and you have not thought about your marketing. You've just thought about where they will find you. So it's very, very important. Even when you're thinking about a website, have you done search engine optimization for it? Have you done, have you made sure that people know about it? Because you see, a lot of things, times you have a very beautiful website, but unless you search for that business, it's not going to be found. You've not done any keywords, and there's a lot that goes into SEO. You've not invested in SEO, so how do you expect people to find you? So it's important that even as you start a business, or even as you revamp a business, really, really, really think keenly about your sales and marketing strategy. Because if you do not have a top line, you will not have a bottom line. If you don't have money coming in, you will not have a profit, and you will not be a going concern. All right, I think, there's another question here. I started a podcast to empower creatives. I poured my soul into it, edited episodes late into the night, shared it on all my socials, even paid to boost the posts. But after 6 episodes, I barely had 50 listeners. I kept refreshing stats, hoping something would change it. It didn't. How do you keep going when it feels like no one is listening? I think for me, because we do something similar, and sometimes the numbers are not so great. I think for me, it's you have to have passion in what you're doing. If it's going to be your bread and butter, then you might need to have income coming in from elsewhere. The thing we forget when we're going into any kind of venture is it's unlikely to feed you for a while. I think that's something we need to say, and be honest about. And any entrepreneur will tell you, it's not likely to feed you for a while. In some businesses, it will take 2 years. Some takes 10. In fact, I feel like the people who've been honest, like Jeff Bezos, he decided taking a salary, I think, after 10 years. So I think, and I could be wrong, but I think it was even longer. It will not feed you for a while. The problem with most of us is we expect a salary from the business from the word go. And to be fair, there are those that do. There are businesses that from the word go, because it was a hot product, it was needed in the market, it was the right timing, it was a clear sales and marketing strategy, it was just bang on. And for those few lucky people, they started getting paid from the word go. But most businesses will take time before they pay you. So you must have the drive and the grit it takes to run that business until it starts paying you. And the thing about, I think, YouTube and any other social media platforms, you have to keep relearning what is the algorithm looking for, what is your audience looking for in terms of aesthetics, in terms of the topics you're talking about, in terms of, even if you're talking about creatives, how many creatives are there? You know, you might be talking to a small group of people in the market, and then expecting people outside of your sphere to be listening. So if you're so niched down and you're only talking to creatives, and creatives are consuming so many other social media channels, perhaps you need to open up who your audience is. So you really need to think about your audience and think about, okay, if I've niched down, am I likely to get a huge following? So these are things that you possibly might want to find a coach to talk about, and then figure out, is this actually going to work in the long run? Okay, great. I don't know if you have any questions. If not, I think we will close here. But I think, let me just reiterate that we will have a webinar on 12th of June 2025. We're going to send the link all over our social media pages. If you want to sign up, please DM, put it in the comments if you want. We will be taking you step by step. We will give you the tools that you will need to actually now figure out all the documents that we've talked about. We'll be sending you so that you're able to fill out in a manner that you understand, so that now we are able to figure out the next step for your business. So thank you for listening in. We appreciate your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday.